Hello everyone, welcome back to our next class paper Non-Coordinates Unit 1 Protista, Parazoa and Metazoa. Today I will be discussing about the reproduction in Protista. Let's know about introduction. Some protists reproduce sexually using gametes, while others reproduce asexually by binary fission. Some species, for example, Plasmodium falciparum, have extremely complex life cycles that involves multiple forms of organism, some of which reproduce sexually and others asexually. Cell division in protists, as in plant and animal cells, is not a simple process, although it may superficially appear to be so. The typical mode of reproduction in most of the major Protestant taxa is asexual binary fission. The length of time for completion of the process of binary fission varies among groups of organisms and with environmental conditions. Generally, it ranges from just a few hours in an optimal situation to many days under other circumstances. In some unicellular algal protists, reproductions occurs by fragmentation. So, reproductions takes various time ranges. Sometimes it takes few hours and sometimes long period. Here you see in the figure, in case of asexual reproduction, what happened? They are just simply nucleus divided into two, and then cytoplasm constriction takes place, and then two daughter cell produce simple mitosis. In case of sexual reproductions or in case of gamete formations, meiosis takes place. In a parent cell, the cells undergo meiosis. So here the meiosis showing their chromosome number is reduced, and then two daughter nuclei produced against from these two daughter nuclei, and against from one two daughter cell produced and from another two daughters. So ultimately, as a result, during meiosis of a parent body cells forming the four daughter cells, means reduction division takes place. Multiple fissions also occurs among protists and in common in some parasitic species. The nucleus divides repeatedly to produce a number of daughter nuclei, which eventually become the nuclei of the progeny after repeated cellular divisions, as you can see in the figure. There are several kinds of multiple fissions, often correlated with phases or stages in the full life cycle of a given species. The number of offspring or final product resulting from a multiple divisions or very rapid succession of binary fissions may vary from 4 to dozens of even hundreds, generally in a short period of time. So you see how many individual it can replicate or it can produce. 4 to dozens to 100 times. Modes of such multiple fissions range from budding, in which a daughter nucleus is produced, and split from the parent together with some of the surrounding cytoplasm. So budding also takes place. To sporogony, production of sporozoites by repeated divisions of a zygote, and schizogony, formation of multiple merozoites as in malarial parasites. The latter two phenomena are characteristics of many protists that are obligate parasites of more advanced eukaryotes. Some multicellular algal protists reproduce via asexual spores, structures that are themselves often produced by a series of rapid fissions. So it is nothing, just many times fissions or rapid fissions takes place. Here in the figure you see, in case of multiple fissions, this is the nucleus parent cell. So this nucleus form many nuclei that contain a cyst, means it forms a cyst, and inside the cyst many nuclei form. And when the cyst breaks and daughter cells are released, and thus new individual come out after the completion of fission, or thus multiple fissions. Even under a light microscope, difference can be seen in the modes of division among diverse groups of protists. The flagellates, for example, exhibit a longitudinal or mirror image type of fission. Symmetrogenic fissions, the ciliates, on the other hand, basically divide in a point-by-point correspondence of parts, that is the homotetogenic fissions, often seen as essentially transverse or parkinetal, means across the kinetis or ciliary rows. Many amoebas exhibit their fission is basically simpler binary fissions. So this event takes place during the fissions, maybe multiple fissions or maybe other. Sexual phenomena are known among the protists. Even many of the unicellular species can, under appropriate conditions, from gametes or sex cells, which fuse and give rise to a new genetically unique generation. In fact, sexual reproduction, the union of two gametes, which is called syngamy, is the most common sexual phenomenon and occurs quite widely among the protists. For example, among various flagellate organisms and pseudopods, and among many parasitic phyla, that is in Plasmodium, a malarial causing organisms. So they show this type of characteristic features of reproduction. In case of gamete formation, you see the zygotic meiosis. What happened in case of zygotic meiosis? So this is the adult half or n number chromosome produced. So this meiosis takes place, gametes same one number, and then fertilization takes place, means two gametes fuse together and then form twice n number zygote. And this zygote again follow the meiosis and then forming the 4 cells. And this is again these are the n number individual produce. So in such a way, zygotic meiosis follow. In case of gametic meiosis, you see, this is twice n number gamete. So meiosis takes place, twice n number gamete takes place, the chromosome number reduced, means 4 gamete produced after following meiosis. This n number gamete again goes fertilizations, that means union, and then zygote form, again twice n number chromosome form, and again this simply meiosis takes place, total individual produce. This is the twice n number chromosome bearing organism produce, means again adult form. So in such a way they follow the gametic meiosis. Conjugation, the second major kind of sexual phenomenon and one occurring in the ciliated protist, has genetic and evolutionary result identical to those of syngamy. The process involves the fissions of gametic nuclei rather than independent gamete cells. Zygotic or fissions nucleus, not a true zygote, is produced and undergoes a series of meiotic divisions to produce a number of haploid pronuclei. All but one of these pronuclei in each organism will disintegrate. The remaining pronuclei divide mitotically. One pronucleus from each organism is accepted and the new micronuclei and macronuclei of the next generations are formed. Following the accessions of pronuclei and the subsequent formation of new micronuclei and macronuclei in each organism, a series of asexual fissions accompanied by mitotic divisions of the new diploid micronuclei occurs in each X-conjugate line. This type of characteristic features already we have seen in our earlier protozoan class. So the new polyploid macronuclei are distributed passively in the first of these divisions. In subsequent fissions, the macronuclei duplicate themselves through a form of mitosis. Again, it follows mitosis. This last stage constitutes the only reproduction involved in the process. For example, the two ciliates themselves may be noticeably different size, called macroconjugate or microconjugate, or the number of predivisions of the micronuclei may vary, as may the number of nuclear divisions that takes place after the zygotic nucleus is formed. Furthermore, chemical signals, hormones, are given or exchanged before a pair of protists unite in conjugation. So gamete also have the role. It is not known if these gametes should be considered as sex pheromones, reminiscents of those known in many animals. For example, certain insects. As you know, insect secretes the pheromone during the reproduction or sexual reproduction. So such phenomena here also observed. But they seem to serve a similar purpose of attracting or bringing together different mating types. While conjugation may be considered a process of reciprocal fertilization, a parallel sexual phenomenon in ciliates which takes place in single unpaired individuals may be considered a process of self-fertilization. Protist life cycles range from relatively simple ones that may involve only periodic binary fissions to very complex schemes that may contain asexual and sexual phase, encysment and excisment, and in the case of many symbiotic and parasitic forms, an alternation of hosts. So, during these reproductions or the protist reproduction, sometimes they show the alternations of hosts. Dormant stages in a life cycle are probably more common in algal protists than in protozoan protists. Such stages somewhat analogous to hibernation in mammals serve to preserve a species during unfavorable conditions as in time of inadequate food supply or extreme temperatures. As we know that protist shows the cyst formation during unfavorable conditions. The occurrence of resistance cyst in the vegetative stage depends therefore on such environmental factors as season, temperature, light, water, and nutrient supply. The fertilized egg or zygote in a number of algal groups may also pass into a dormant stage, a zygospore, which is called zygospore. Many sporozoa and members of other totally parasitic phyla form a highly resistant stage. For example, the oocysts or the coccidian parasites, which may survive for a long time in the facial material of the host or in the soil. Thus, this cyst is the infective stage for the next host in the parasite's life cycle. Some life cycles involve not only multiple hosts but also a vector, a particular metazoan organisms that can act as either an active or passive carrier of parasites to the next host. So it is very interesting and it is characteristically very diverse of the reproduction in protist animal. Thank you. This is bibliography from which I derive this your contents for the preparation of the presentation. Thank you.